Ladies and gentlemen, entering the podcast arena at this time is a two-time former national kickboxing champion and current undisputed business coach champion of the world, Eric Renegade Whitmoyer. What's up,
Sorry,
champ?
Debbie. Yeah. Sorry, Debbie. You got the day after my birthday harassment podcast. He actually, so Chris just recently met my former sensei, trainer, promoter from when I was a champion kickboxer. And I'm sure he heard more stories about me than I'd cared for him to hear. But it's all good. Anyway, thanks you very much, Chris. Great to be here. Excited to introduce our guest today. So I'll let you take that over.
All right. Well, everybody, let's meet Debbie Allen, speaking to sell and authority positioning expert. Business mentor for speakers and coaches with decades of entrepreneurial experience and business building wisdom. After selling her multi-million-dollar retail business, Debbie became a full-time professional speaker and business consultant focusing on marketing, sales, and business growth. Since beginning her speaking career, she has presented on over 500 stages in 28 countries, hosted her own live events for over 15 years, consistently making multiple six figures in a weekend, and authored 11 best-selling books. Welcome to the show, Debbie. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I think it's over 1,000 stages now, but I've been on a few.
Well, I got this off your website, so
I know. I need to update it. Thank you for telling me. That's good. I keep going. What difference? I think you know what you're doing after 500, but 1,000.
I would think.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
It's easier to be on a podcast than the stages.
Oh, no, you haven't been on this podcast yet. So
Yeah, that's right.
Hold your judgment until then.
Awesome. Well, Debbie, thank you very much. Appreciate you being on. Honored to have you on the show, and excited to kind of talk through a little bit more about what you do specifically today. And but what I'd like to start with is how you got to where you are today, and some of the transition that you went through. So in our initial conversation and preparing for the show, one of the things I did not pick up on was the background in retail. I think I missed that. So what was the business that you were in previously?
Well, before the retail, I started out. I was an entrepreneur since I was 19 years old. I've never even applied for a job, Eric. It scares me. I wouldn't know how to apply for a job. I'd either get fired the first week or I'd be buying the company. I mean, there's like two options, So it's rare that you find people like that, especially somebody that barely got through high school, never went to college or anything. But my family started a family business when I was young, and then I joined that family business, which is a car rental business outside of beautiful Gary, Indiana, which is Armpit, USA. So you can imagine the tough clientele we had, right? But I thought, well, the business is growing because we got 5 rental cars. I'll buy into the business, and I took part of my paycheck and bought it in the business as it was growing, and we've got up to 250 cars. It's still in business today, 55 years later. Yeah, my brother owns it. Yeah. So, so I started that, with very tough, like talk about the toughest clientele you can have. I mean, cars are coming back with bullet holes and from drive-by shootings. I mean, Gary's been a war zone all the way back even in the 70s. But, I would never look back and go, gosh, sorry I did that or whatever, because I lived through it, which was good. And I learned a ton. I was just thrown into business with every kind of challenge while it was growing. We were also the first in Northwest Indiana to build mini storage. And so we sold those mini storage units then to public storage within maybe 5 years or something. We had 2 big facilities and sold them to a big company. And that was the first $1 million sale before I was 30. And that's when I left the business going, okay, now I want to create my own business. So why don't I just buy another business I don't know anything about, which is how I got into retail. It was just like, I don't want to get a job. So what's in front of me? My mom was selling her retail store, moving out of state. So she's like, hey, just buy it. No mentoring. And then when I got into that, it was just like a losing business for 6 years. I had to turn it around. And I back then you couldn't find mentors. Like you just find a mentor now and you can hire somebody. But back then it wasn't. So I would go to market and I would talk to the sales reps and I said, who are your successful people? Can I work your booth? And I started, meeting some of the really successful retailers. And then they invited me into a group that was kind of like what we call now a mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like 6 months experience and they took me under their wing. And they became my mentors and I blew my business up. I had a buying office in New York within a few months. I mean, they just basically said, here's all the marketing things to do. Here's all the lines to buy. It was like basically handed me a golden ticket. And that's, I think, why I wanted to be a mentor. I didn't realize that till later because I was building and selling my stores. But my model then was always the entrepreneurial spirit. You build to sell or you build to magnify. So I did the same thing. I built multiple stores and then I eventually sold all the stores. And I went, what's my next chapter? Let's find another business I don't know anything about. So then somebody invited me to speak at one of the big shows in Vegas and tell my story, how I built my business. And that's how it led into speaking. I spoke this first time for free. And after that, I got paid and I didn't even know it was business. And that's how I launched into that world. It was kind of, it seems like it was just like, God given. But of course, I was like looking for the opportunities. He was aligned. But, I think the reason I was successful when I didn't know, when I was clueless, is because I was a sponge, to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was very coachable. Like, I'm willing to work as many hours. I'm doing to do whatever. I'm not going to question what you say. You're successful. And those are my best clients today, as people that are coachable, that say, hey, you know what you're doing and I'm following the lead.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, ironically, I find the same thing with my business.
Yeah.
Right.
Half the battle is getting people that are, they'll tell you that they want to take their business to the next level, that they want to grow and scale. But then they'll tell you all the reasons why they can't do it or why they can't do it, what you're suggesting they need to do. So it's interesting you say that.
Right. And you say, well, how's it working so far? Right. Yeah.
That's it, right?
If you could figure it out on your own, why aren't you doing that? Yeah. It's kind of crazy when people are coachable. But again, that's one of the main reasons why a lot of people fail is like, how can you be smarter with one head? Like you're going to be smarter with many heads and somebody that's already been there years ahead. Just like, why question it? But
yeah. Excellent point. Well, really diverse background, ironically, as you mentioned, going into businesses you don't know. I actually jumped into a trucking business without not knowing anything about it. And it was funny because recently I did a post and I was talking about it was as successful as it was in the short term as I ramped it up because we went from 0 to 27 trucks and $500,000 a month in revenue. So we were doing about a little over $6 million a year. I did that in 11 months. And so I did a post the other day talking about the trials and tribulations of that kind of growth and the things that we had to adjust going through that. And it was funny because there were people on the platform, it was LinkedIn, that challenged me. And they're like, oh, how did you get qualified to buy that many trucks? And all they could go was all the different reasons why I was not telling the truth, that my story wasn't accurate. And I'm like, I have the scars to prove it.
That's right. Well, they just want to call bullshit because, then they could go back into like, well, that's why I'm not successful. Right. So, and that's another thing too. When we're talking about building wealth, building success is it's like, you have to be thankful and blessed and grateful for other people that have it. If you are looking at people that are wealthy or people that are successful and you're looking for jealousy or you're looking for reasons it doesn't work or thinking that you're never going to be that way yourself because, there's enough money to go around. There's enough opportunity to go around. So a lot of it starts here, but as I was growing through the growth of businesses, I had to work on that part too because I didn't know how to be smart with money. In fact, I was just thinking about that this morning because I have a new client and her business is Wise Money and how people throw money away and how they grow up with the wrong money habits. And even though I learned a ton being in the family business, the biggest lessons I learned are, growing up with a narcissistic father that was also a gambler when it came to business. He would start something and he'd be successful at it. And then it's like, let's start something else. And he didn't focus on the other one. So he would take, profits from one business and throw it to another. I can't even tell you in the family business, the 10 years that I was there, my brother and I get together and we think, oh yeah, how about that business? How about that one? You know, because it was like every 6 months he's starting something else. And you know, the ones that survive were the two that we focused on the most, and we're successful and built systems around them and all of that. So those were the biggest lessons I learned, basically what not to do. And another thing about the money part was, you know, I saw my dad throwing away money and making bad decisions. When I started making a lot of money, when got into especially like the speaking business and started my business was really rolling and money was just coming in, I had a lot of opportunity. I was finding myself, you know, spending as fast as I could. Like, I'm going to get the nicest house in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm going to get the nicest car. I'm going to get the, because it was like I wasn't comfortable with that. So I had to learn how to change that. And one of my first mentors was Harv Eker, that taught, you know, the secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And I hired Harv and went to all of his events. And because I had the breakthrough, like, I'm becoming my father, like a nightmare, right? Yeah, it's just because it's the lessons that we learn. So there's a million things in business. You know, one is coaching like you do, but the other, if somebody doesn't have their head on right, they're going to destroy it when they get it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, valid point.
Facts.
Interesting. I just recently met Jeff Fagan, who
Jeff's great.
So I was like, he was telling me about all the years he spent with T Harv and running that company, doing what they did with that. Mm-hmm. So it's amazing to hear that you're actually associated with him through.
Yeah, Jeff was his childhood friend. And he said, I mean, Harv was like 10, 12 years old, and he's talking like, I want to be a millionaire. I went at that age. Like, he just had that mindset at a very young age.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, appreciate that, and thank you for indulging on the background, because I think that even some of the initial conversations we already had, I'm like, there's a lot of value there, right? I tell people all the time, on my background, I went to school for accounting. And luckily, my junior year, I took an internship and realized, oh, this is not what I want to do. As a matter of fact, I'd had two of my own businesses. Yeah, right. But it was very valuable to have that understanding, because I talk with clients all the time, and one of the problems that you just suggested was they're already bad with money. And they're like, oh, well, once I make so much money, it'll be fine because I'll make enough to. And I'm like, no. If you got bad money habits, they just exacerbate when you make more money.
Yep.
They don't get better because you make more money. They get worse because you make more money. So that's and as a business owner, nothing can bury a business faster than somebody who's not disciplined with their finances, because there's so many things you have to factor in, not just how you spend the money, but even setting money aside or paying yourself first, or some of these really basic principles we teach business owners, because you need to factor that in, because you never know when things aren't going to go well.
Right.
So as I say that, just before we jump into the one last question from you, just because you have so much experience, you mentioned how much you cut your teeth in with the initial rental business, the car rental business. Ironically, I worked for a company called Snappy Car Rental here in Phoenix, like 30 some odd years ago. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was. And I remember because we had to wear shirts and ties, and I was out there with my knit tie, just to kind of give some perspective of when the times were. I got my knit tie on, and I wrap around the back of my shoulder while I'm in the car, vacuuming me out and everything like that in 115-degree heat, so I could get it rented for the next person coming. But I remember those days well. But quick question for you in regards to some of your tougher challenges throughout the years, particularly before the sales of some of those companies. What were some of the biggest challenges you really, you mentioned having to rethink about the business, or not, but get your head right about what you were doing and what you needed to focus on. What were some of the biggest lessons you learned? Maybe one or two, just really, really important lessons that you had to come to terms with.
Yeah, so many lessons that, in the car rental, it was like I was young and I was just, I wasn't going, what am I supposed to learn here? It wasn't like we really had any kind of training. It was just like a day-to-day thing. And right. Since I grew up in a tough environment, it gave me this tough exterior as far as business. Like, I don't take any bullshit. And of course, as older as I get, the more I don't take it. But, because it's like you've been through this stuff. Like, nothing really scares me too much. I've traveled all over the world. by myself on a world tour for 3 years. I mean, nothing, I've taken a lot of risk. And so I look back and I go, that was a gift that I was put into that kind of war zone from the beginning. But I would look back and go, when you say challenges, I have to go, when was I most scared in my business? And I'll just talk about the speaking business. The speaking business when the financial crisis hit in 2008, because again, I rose to the top 3% of paid professional women speakers in the world. I was at that fee. I was booked 7,500 times a year. I got the lifestyle. This is going to be it, and the financial crisis hit and it just crashed and burned. And I realized you cannot be a one-trick pony in this business. You use speaking as a way to get business, consulting and courses now and all these different things, right? But back then it was like, speaking was a career, and they built it out of, the National Speakers Association build this, and this is your career, and this is going to be your life, and then those top 3% are making the big bucks, right? So they never taught about other things. So when the financial crisis hit, it was very similar to the pandemic. It totally destroyed the speaking industry, and that's why I'm so passionate about speaking to new and emerging speakers now, because there's so many people to get into this business that are jaded thinking that it works the way it used to be, and it's not going to work the way audiences are different. Speaking business is different. Everything is so completely different, and it's not a sustainable business anymore. You have to use speaking to sell other things so that something like that happens. So when that financial crisis happened, I had all these expenses. I'm got the all this lifestyle, and I have like zero money coming in, because who's going to afford a speaker? That's like the last thing. That's like having a luxury boat. I can get rid of the speaker, right? And so, yeah, and you can't just drop your fee to 50% and live off of that. And it's not even fee integrity to do that. So I remember talking to my brother and going, what are we going to do? And he's like freaking out too. Like, what are we going to do? And, I remember him saying on the call, which was, again, terrifying. I'm thinking, do I have to go get a job? And I'm like, I wasn't even doing consulting then. So I was even thinking consulting was a job back then. I mean, and who's going to afford a consultant when there's no money? And it was a financial crisis, right? It was just everybody's, short selling their house, and it was a total nightmare. And it didn't last 1 or 2 years, just like the pandemic. It was like 4 to 5 years for the most part.
Right.
But that was a real crisis, right? Pandemic, we know, is a lot of don't even get me started on what they put us through with the mindset stuff. But the financial crisis was a real crisis, right? So then I thought, and I sat, because usually, when you're an entrepreneur, you can turn business on a dime. You can go, here's the problem, find the solution. Come on, you can do it, right? You can come up with something. But I'm sitting there, and it took me a while to think about it. I'm like, well, there's a huge country out there. There's a huge world out there. It doesn't have to be the States. I'm starting to study all these other countries, and their finances are better, especially like Australia. They were trading with Asia. Like a lot, they weren't going through the same thing. We were in our own bubble. And so I started marketing to speak internationally. And then within 3 months, 80% of my business was international. So it started going paid speaking international. Then I went to an event in New Zealand. It was what we call Pitch Fest now. One speaker after the next, speaking, selling. And then internet marketing, how to make millions of dollars internet. Everybody's up there with like, make $1 million from your YouTube channel. And then people, $5,000 program, go in the back of the room. And we were all doing that back then, especially in other countries. We're embracing it before us because this. And as we came back into the business, the Pitch Fest was popular because it was the dream to get back on track again, right? And so that was where the model was. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm doing the math, watching them close. And they're not good speakers, but they're really good at closing. And I'm like, this is a whole nother game. Right. And I was already doing events back then, but I would bring in all the speakers that knew how to sell. The Harv Eker, I brought him in to speak at my event, Laurel Langemeyer, and, Dan Kennedy, and all the people that, they had a name that knew how to sell. And I was more of the MC at my own event, and I would make money off of those until I learned how to do that and make money. And now event business is completely different. We don't have the Pitch Fest. We have deep dive training. Live events are stronger than ever now, even stronger now than before the pandemic, pre-pandemic. The live events are super strong right now. because we want
Wow.
that human connection.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
want, there's AI, there was online. It's like, are you real? Can I hug you? I want that human connection. I want that live experience. I want that emotion. So that's when I came back, of course, to live events. I started seeing that in 2024. But it's just the pandemic wasn't as hard of a hit because you could go online than the financial crisis. But again, that's why I stayed 80% of my time was traveling internationally, and that was when I did 28 countries in 3 years.
That makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Interesting. To your point, as an entrepreneur, you look for the opportunity to pivot, right? And I remember '08 very well. I shut down my wireless dealership during that time because I had just expanded, and as that all played out, I was tapped out capital wise, and so I just kind of hadn't even got all the stores open yet that I'd already committed to for the carrier I was working with, and I remember having to pull everything back. But I appreciate you sharing because I think that's really powerful. So many times we hear people with the success that you have, people make the assumption, oh, it's always been easy for them, right? And they just that's not how it is. Every time I work with a client, I'm reminding them, it's like we're 3, 4, 5, 6 years, maybe it's 4, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it is, from the next 20% adjustment, whatever that is. And every industry is affected differently and everything is triggered differently. But to your point, whether it's the pandemic or it's 9/11 or it's 2008, we're only a handful of years from that next 20%, 25% adjustment in the business industry that you're in. And so if you're not prepared for that, or more importantly, you don't have the right mindset on how to work out of that, that's another reason why so many businesses fail, right?
Yeah. And when you're in business long enough, you see the cycles. You see, like, if you're like a futurist almost, because it is a cycle, like real estate is a cycle. And even on top of me doing all the speaking at that time, I was holding, I probably had 5, 6 houses at the time doing fix and flips. So and I'm stuck, right, with these houses. Some of them I had to
Right.
dump. I mean, so I got that business going on top of it. I mean, 2 businesses crashed and burned at the same time. It was just, horrific. But, everything's a cycle. And I think the next financial crisis we're going to hit, and we're starting to see it right now coming up, is the credit card debt. It's out of control because we went all on, everything is digital. One of my clients was doing a live event. Last week she was in town, and we did a book sale thing for her, and we had lined up after her keynote. A lot of people are lining up, and I said, she goes, "Well, we do the QR code." I said, "But yeah, let's make it $20 because everybody's got $20 in their wallet, and so we can move the line fast, so they don't have to do the stupid QR code in the ballroom and everything like that." 2 people out of this huge line had $20 in their wallet. I was shocked. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
Like, nobody. They're like, they leave home with their phone because everything is in there. But that just shows they don't pay attention. By the time the credit card bill comes, then they're like, "Whoa!" And that's how they started getting credit card debt. And so convenience is actually causing a bigger financial, problem that we're going to see come up here.
Yeah, that along with our natural tendency to just want everything fast and now, and we're not willing to
Yeah.
wait, and delayed gratification is a whole nother concept
Yeah.
anymore these days. Appreciate that. Great insight. So let me ask, let's talk a little bit about what are because you work with speakers in a lot of different areas. What are the areas where, and you actually just mentioned a book launch. I'm kind of curious. Let's start with this. What are some of the different ways you would take somebody's business and show them how speaking would only enhance or accelerate or be that add-on?
hmm
So,
Well, my clients now, it used to just be speakers that want to learn more about speaking, and now it's I have a guy he was in the flooring industry, so he had years of experience in the flooring industry. So now he's teaching flooring companies how to grow their business. So he was doing online events. He's built a huge following. I got him back into live events again. Increased his program prices. His business is blowing up. I've got another gal who's a chiropractor, and I said, and she's complaining about her business. I'm like, it's a dying business. Okay, you got to build it differently. You're gonna have to, if you want to work with me, you have to have an exit strategy. You got to come back with a plan. I mean, she's gonna pay me a ton of money, and I'm like, I don't want you. Because you have no time. You're working 50, 60 hours a week in a dying business because it's franchised and everything has changed around you.
right. Right.
And you can't work 50, 60 hours. It's not sustainable. And so, yeah, she figured it out. And she came back and she, this is how much she wanted to work with me. She brought her 13-year-old daughter on the Zoom call. And she said, I came back with a proposal and I got a business plan and I'm going to bring these doctors in and I'm going to put my business up for sale. I'm not going to wait. And, I listened to everything you said. I'm going to say this cute 13-year-old daughter that wants to work along with her that already wrote her first book. I'm like, okay, I'll take you on. I'll take your money. But it's a good problem to have in my business that I can hand select clients like that. But that's why I have such a huge success rate is because I make sure that they're coachable, that they're going to ready, they're going to have the time. Because if I give you all these ideas, like I can give Chris all these ideas, and Chris is like, I'm working too many hours. He's not going to implement anything. So then he's going to go back to me and say it didn't work. Yeah, it didn't work because you didn't implement it because
Right.
it wasn't possible. So it all kind of still ties back to coaching and business. It's like you got to be ready. You got to have a plan. If you have to have an exit strategy to go to the next thing. You just can't build it. And then a lot of people think I'm going to build this business, and when I make enough money, I'll quit my job or I'll sell my business or I'm holding out for the big bucks. I told her she's holding out for the big bucks. I said, you know what? You're going to hold out too long, and you're going to go down with a sinking ship. And I see it with my own family. My brother, 55 years, still has that car rental business. He's turned down numerous deals to sell it. He hates it. And he's like, and then his manager runs it. Now she wants to retire. She's been there for, I don't know, 25 years. And he goes, if I don't sell it by next year when she wants to retire, I'm just going to close it. I'm like, are you kidding me? So
Profitable
this is
business
like,
has been open for 50 years and he's going to close it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you would think, an entrepreneur like this is not going to think like that. It's just, I understand the process. Like, I want the top dollar, but you also have to think, what is your earning potential if you would have sold it and done what you're excited and passionate about doing, or put your investments into areas that you would enjoy better and have less stress.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point. Amazing. Actually, we again, I tell people all the time, the number one, I have the 7 core competencies that I talk about, but my number one is the vision, right? Getting clear on your vision. And when you start a business, what I have found with all the clients I've worked with in the last 7 years, the vast majority of them did not have one. Most of them, almost, I don't think hardly any of them, maybe a handful, actually wrote a business plan. But the business plan is not nearly as important in being clear where you want to go with it. And so, your point, if you don't have an exit strat, well, I say to people all the time, you're going to exit your business one way or the other. The difference is whether it's going to be on your terms or somebody else's terms, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, why not have it be on your terms and think of what are my best case scenarios and what's my worst case scenario, and then that at least you've got a plan, right? You've got something, and say if I'm not quite going to get here, but I can get here, I'm okay with that. So to your point, if I've got a car rental business that's got so many cars and it's doing a couple $1 million a year in revenue, at what point am I say, okay, I've hit 30 years, I'm done, I'm ready to sell, I don't want to do this anymore, or whatever that is for you, right? Because I can now pour myself into the next thing I want to do,
Right.
because I think that's something that's really important to you, is like you said, you pour yourself into that next thing because you're all about otherwise you wouldn't be able to go from one business that you don't know anything about to the next business that you don't know anything about.
Yeah, and I still have that, that adrenaline rush in me. I guess we all have that as entrepreneurs, building businesses and watching them grow. So the reason I don't do my own now, I do that for other clients. They invest in the business, they do that. So I still get to grow it with them, and I think I get even more excited now to see them grow and have success. I go, gosh, it was just like less than a year ago we had this idea, and now you're actually doing it, and you're doing better than we imagined, and it's so fun to watch, see them do it. I think I'm more in the legacy part of my career right now, where I enjoy other people doing that work, and I just tell them what to do and they do the work, which is nice. Of course, I do a lot more than that, but it's a lot easier than actually investing and doing the hard build, like
Yeah.
they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you this. One of the things I share with a lot of my clients is my ability to be objective in their business. I think that's one of the main things, and something you just said kind of keyed me into that same concept for you. I tell people, I'm like, look, it's easy for me to tell you the baby's ugly because it's not my baby. Say, and you're paying me to be objective and help you identify the problems or potential solutions that may not be favorable, right? It's like that's not what you want to do, but it's what you need to do. Kind of like with this chiropractor you referenced. It's like she's got to sell that if she wants to make the next leap in her business, because otherwise she's going to get stuck in the day to day, and she'll never be able to pull herself away to go do the next thing that she wants to do. To your point, you also referenced the fact that I think you said it was a dying business. So it's like you're going to get sucked into this, and it's not going to allow you to focus on what you want to do. But I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on, as I say that in regards to making the leap. I say you have to let go of what you have to be able to get to the next thing you want to get to. And too many people are trying to do too many things, in my opinion. And I think that's one of the big reasons that a lot of business owners fail too.
Yeah, because she's putting too much time working in her business. And how are you going to work on a new business that is more speaking, consulting, health wise, right? She was actually invited to come to my live event. So she's in the audience, and then I'm doing audience interaction, right? And she's saying, she raised her hand and she's talking about her employees and complaining how bad they are, and can't get stuff done, and how many hours she works and all this stuff. And I called her out in front of the entire audience and I said, your business is broken. Okay. It's not a fix. I don't have an answer for you to fix it. You are asking me a question to fix it, and the fix is not there. It's time for you to sell and move on to the next thing. You wouldn't be sitting in this room wanting to do the next thing if you wanted to keep your business and run it the way you're frustrated. And I'll tell you this. And then I was trying to I slapped her a little bit, and I got to be, nice about it. It's like, but the reason people get that frustrated that she is because she was so ready to do the next thing. She's right. Brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant. She's ready for the next thing, and she's got this anchor. So I did her a favor in front of that entire audience. And then, I thought, oh, she's either going to hate me or she's going to sign up to work with me. It's like, but of course, she had to sit with it and realize, yeah, okay. And then when she even sat with it and signed up with it, signed up for my program, I was like, you have to be ready. Like, I'm not going to just take you on. And then, so yeah, it took her, well, that was in May. So she just came back last week with a plan, which is, we did a couple calls. I helped her get it ready, and she's got a really good plan. I'm really excited, but, and it's probably going to be one of the most enjoyable clients I've worked with, to see her totally do that and have her on my stage next year and say, she was sitting here with this and now look what she's done. That's what we love when we see those transformations.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. So couple last quick thoughts in regards to the speaking business. You'd mentioned that to be able to be successful today in the speaking space, it's not just about speaking. It's how to what are you selling along with it? What are the, whether it's courses or consulting or whatever it might be. But what are some of the things, and maybe some of the unique things that people aren't thinking about that they could be doing in expanding their business that way?
I mean, a lot of people think about, I can just do an online business and sell courses, or I'll put my business website up and sell courses. Everything takes marketing effort, right? If you want to be a paid speaker, you got to market to get paid. So you got to you got to realize, where's my biggest income stream going to come from if I put up my energies in, especially when you're first starting out, because you want that cash flow coming in. You want that success to show up. And so most of my clients are selling coaching and consulting programs. So if they come to me and they've got a $5,000 program, I say, why don't you have a $10,000? Why don't you have a $20,000 program? Well, I don't know what to put in it. I said, well, okay, let's talk it. We're going to get you there, right? And so that's how I get a quick ROI. Is I teach them how to not really sell, have a conversation and open up a door to somebody to come in and show the value. Most people don't sell themselves well, or they underprice themselves because they do not know how to value the results, the end results that they offer. So they don't talk the end results. They go, oh, you're going to get this many calls. You're going to get email with me. You're going to get this. Blah, blah, blah. Where am I going? Did you listen to the client? This is what the client wants. Right. And if you listen to them, I can get you there in 6 months. I can get you there in 1 year. Depending, if you're at ground zero, I can get you there here, and then, this year you can do this, and the next year you can do this. And when you see that vision for them and you lay it out, and then when you tell them what the price of your program is, and they go, oh, well, I didn't think it was that much. I said, okay, well, then you're going to give up on your dream. and you've heard this too, or I could go ask my husband, well, what if he says no? You're going to give up on your dream because he says no? Or you're going to go, you're not going to get the money to invest in your business to get what you want. You haven't figured it out now, whether you work with me or somebody else. What is your plan? They don't have a plan. They're just stuck on one, these excuses. Like, you don't want it bad enough then, right? Because it's like, I've invested all my life. I'm still investing. You always have to have a mentor. You have to invest in your business. So like every show I go on, a podcast or some whatever, depending on what the conversation is, I can just pull, information, download. It's just like whatever you want to lead that to, because there's a lot of content there, right? Because of the years of experience we have. And that's what people are paying for when they work with you, when they work with me. It's like the years of wisdom, like, oh my God, I've been trying to figure it out forever. And then Eric, I just had this conversation with you and you just laid it all out. Like you laid out the blueprint and you just saw what I could not see by myself.
Right.
Exactly. Because because you've been doing it for years. Yeah. So I think it's a real gift that entrepreneurs, that the ones that keep growing and learning and have a diverse background. I just happen to fall into the speaking business, and it happens to be one of the best ways to sell. 4 times more likely to sell somebody from a live stage than anything else, because now you're positioned as an authority. So I was at this chiropractor now positioned as authority as a health person, the flooring guy, right? So they weren't thinking they're going to be speakers. They're just using the skill of speaking as authority, positioning themselves and put that information out there for the people in the audience. And then from that, they're going, how can I work with you? How can, and then they see other people investing too. So when you're in a live audience, they have that emotional connection, that like trust. I mean, it just cuts all of that versus so many people are just trying to sell one-to-one, especially when they're starting out. Their conversations are, I'm really hungry, versus, the knowingness of years of experience. When you're working with somebody with years of experience, like Eric, you the same, you have a knowingness. It's not even like I have the information, like, it so well. It's just, I call it a knowingness. Like, it's just for you, it's just so common sense, and it comes so easy to you. But majority of people don't have that in business.
Yeah, valid point. I'm constantly reminded of it's the unconscious competence that I carry in regards to certain things of business, not everything, but a number of things in business where I'm just like, how do you not know that? You've been in business for 15 years doing what you do. How do you not know these things? That often is something that's quite interesting when I get engaged with new clients. One of the things that we focus on is actually exit strategy planning. That's a new thing that I introduced about 3 years ago. And,
That's needed.
with the where we're at with the economy today, and a lot of baby boomers reaching that age, and statistically, just over 50% of all businesses are owned by somebody over the age of 55. So it's like, this is just the writing on the wall. They've been talking about the silver tsunami for years now, and I think it's going to continue for quite some time. Interestingly enough, what I find is a lot of those people are much like your chiropractor, holding on to something that probably is not going to sustain a whole lot longer unless they adapt, because of the technology advancements that are coming at such a rapid pace that people haven't quite identified, what that looks like. And I'm like, look, it's one of those things where it's time to poop or get off the pot. The truth of the matter is, you're either going to have to double down and lean into this for the next 3 years and adapt this technology and do what you need to do to be competitive, or get out now and let somebody else do it who's willing to do that. Yeah. Because that's the and when you get to a certain you've been doing the business long enough, you get to a certain point and you're kind of like, I don't know that I want to work that hard at this phase of my life. And I'm like, then I would highly recommend it's time to sell then, now. Because if you don't, it's not going to be worth what you think it's worth even now, let alone 3 years from now after you've been beat up.
I think a lot of people get into, like, talk about the exit strategy. They either fall in love with their business, it's like their baby, and they're like, what am I going to do next? So they hold on to it. But it's a business. If you were smart enough to grow that business successfully, sell it at its peak and do the next thing, right? or do a non-compete for a certain period of time and start. I mean, I've sold an event business. I mean, I built a multimillion-dollar event business the first 4 years out. We were putting hundreds of people in the room. We started in 2005. I had a business partner. That's when you could put all the people in the room and do a pitch fest and do $500,000 in a weekend from an event. So we went, again, didn't know anything about that, jumped in and did it big, made the mistakes along the way. But our goal from the very beginning with that partner was we're going to keep this business for 4 to 5 years. We're only going to do it in the state of Arizona. People are going to come to us, and then we're going to sell it. And it's exactly what we did. It was about 4 years in. We had a huge success in that business. And then we created a product called Seminar Business in a Box. And you could buy the information of how to do your event. We gave contracts. We get all the details. We put that whole product together, started selling that. And then along with that, we started selling consulting, people that want to do their own business. And I said, that's how we're going to get our buyer. And so she was sitting in my office that day, and we had one consulting call, and we were both on the call, and I'm putting a note, I'm handwriting a note and sliding it to her, and I'm going, this is our buyer. And he was our buyer. And we had it about 4 years, and then, built it, sold it. And then we didn't even have to have a non-complete clause. We just, went and did our own thing. She started her own business. I started mine,
Interesting.
He was on the East Coast, and he didn't care if we kept doing events, and we just would share leads back and forth with speakers and things like that. And yeah, but we started that way from the very beginning. Day one, we had the conversation. We're going to go all in. We're going to go big, and we're either going to go bust or whatever. But we're going to build this thing, and we're going to sell it. And we're not going to travel. Everybody's going to come to, and we did, and pulled it off. And that's been 20 years now. I've been doing event business. The live events.
That's amazing. And with all the transition that's happened over the last 20 years too.
Yeah.
So question for you, what's the thing today is, because generally speaking, you actually get some pretty good sized ticket clients, but is it the free event, or is it the paid event that's working right now?
It's actually a little bit of both. And hybrid world is still there. So you're using webinars to fill events. Usually, I do my event in May. I only do one event. I used to do one event a year, and just get my high ticket clients from that. In fact, I turned somebody down this morning. She waited too long. I'm like, I don't have space. I'll put you on the wait list for next year. And so January we start launching. We do a 5-day masterclass. Big Money Stages masterclass, and I do 5 days, and then I sell the tickets early bird with some pre-coaching, right, to get them ready. And then so that starts the first paid ticket. So we sell some tickets there. Then I go speak at some events where I sponsor it. Like I might go speak to a national speakers group or a coaching group or some other group, and I go, I'm going to sponsor you guys to come to my event. So I would say that more than half are given away, but they're hand select ideal client giveaways. So that both of those selling, but more giving away to ideal people to come. Because if you're investing, like, hey, come as my VIP guest, I'm buying you lunch, and I'm taking care of you, I'm giving you gifts, I'm giving you everything, just come, right? They're the ones that are more likely going to buy. I mean, I've already saw you speak somewhere, so they got the sample, and they're going to fly somewhere to come in because you invited them, right? And so most of the time, those are the buyers.
I would not have thought of that. That's actually amazing. Appreciate you sharing that. So what else would you have to say? What if somebody wants to get into the speaking space right now, besides the fact that they have to be at least relatively gifted as far as being able to be on stage and maintain a quality conversation for some period of time anyway, what are some of the other things that somebody really needs to be honed into to be able to be successful in that space?
Well, I think that what people used to do is go, well, let me just join National Speakers Association, learn how to be a good platform speaker. I was a member of NSA for 30 years almost. I'd say don't join, because you're going to drink the Kool-Aid. Join your local chapter. You're going to get more out of joining a local National Speakers chapter than go into the big events where it's a bunch of hoopla and motivation, right? And then find your mentors. find your mentors that are the smart people making the money, the ones that are the marketing speakers and it's not just platform skills. The people that make the most money in business are the ones that run their business like an entrepreneur. They're good at marketing, they're good at sales, and also diversify from the very beginning. You don't just think that you're just going to get paid to speak. It's not that model anymore. It's like, how am I going to use speaking to make money?
Right.
So, basically decide that you're going to be an expert in something and position yourself as an expert, and then use speaking as the skill to get clients. It's just flipped.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and you mentioned using webinars. Is that a good strategy to help build for a live event?
Well, it is when they do, like I say, do the master class, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, 5 days, right? I mean, I just did like an hour and a half a day, and that was killing me. Like it takes a lot of energy to do online versus live. I could do 3 days live, but online it's tougher. You don't have the same energy coming back at you. So what I did is I recorded it all. I had a host that came. She ran the whole thing. I recorded it. I can host that 5-day masterclass anytime I want. So the 4 days are all pre-recorded. She comes in and runs it. It looks live. I come in on the last day and I close them. I do Q&A and I close them. So we had it dialed in now because I'm like, I'm not doing this live again, right? But I do live webinars, but then, I'll do a couple and I'll record them. But the thing is that webinars, summits, all of the online stuff, how everybody went during the pandemic online. Now, what the live went away and online came. Now we're flipping. Okay. So online is going down. Numbers are going down. So I got people that come to me that have built huge summits, and have done tremendous with it, and coming to me now going, I got to do something else. You got to have the hybrid. You have to do live along with that. You can't just survive off of that anymore. And so, I had one client just came out and did a VIP day with me, and she's like, well, I don't know what to do. There's so much effort doing the live. I'm like, you want to go down with a sinking ship? You're used to having the big bucks. You built this amazing thing, doing it you already peaked, and now you got to shift, right? You just use the two and use the hybrid model. Don't count on just one thing.
Makes sense. Awesome. Well, Debbie, thank you very much. It's been amazing insight. What if somebody wants to get a hold of you? Where should we direct them to?
Well, just same place that Chris went. DebbieAllen.com.
Perfect.
Just like the dancer, right? ALLEN, DebbieAllen.com, the choreographer. There you can get to my landing page and get free gifts and all that other stuff. So you can find out a lot of good stuff. And I have a community now that I opened. And this is the year I was like, I want to help new and emerging speakers because it's like usually can only help people that buy my high-end programs, and I have programs that go up to $100,000. So I wanted to do something for new and emerging speakers in a group, in a community, because that's really, I want to see more people come into this business and learn it the right way. So it's called my High Paid Speakers Community. You can learn about that from my website, and that's by application, highpaidspeakerscommunity.com. You can go there, and you can watch me speak live on a keynote to a bunch of speakers for an hour, and you can apply to be in my community and still have great access. I love up on my group community as much as I do my personal clients. It just opens up another door of opportunity to help more people.
Absolutely appreciate that, and we'll make sure we get that loaded into the show notes. Debbie, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with as far as final thoughts?
Chris, thanks for all your background, helping us here on the back with the podcast. And Eric, it was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. Anytime talking to another successful entrepreneur and a coach is always great. We think a lot alike. So thank you so much. I enjoyed this.
Well,
appreciate
Debbie,
it. Thank you.
I had one question for you, if you don't mind, just real quick. You mentioned a lot of things that I think are pretty critical to entrepreneurs and people in general. But you talk about surrounding yourself with the right people, gaining those mentors, like I said, to help up Livy. A lot of people, they hang out with the same people that they kind of came up with, but it's almost like crabs in a bucket. They want to pull you back down. So
right.
You know what I mean? Because they don't, they don't have your dream, they don't have your vision, they don't have your drive. So they're gonna, crap all over whatever it is that you're trying to do and things like that. So, but we feel loyal to these people because they've been with us since like day one. They go, well, we've been friends or we're kids or whatever. So how do you gauge? I mean, how do you like kind of gauge when it's like, hey, I need to start surround myself with those right people that have or somewhere that I want to be, I mean, how do you like transition out of that, get out of your former
right.
situation, but
You
go
go
to that next
to
level?
you go to high level groups, or you join a community like what I'm forming, that everybody has to be in a support system. They have to look out for each other, that kind of thing. They're all like minded. You have to be in a like minded, and you want to kind of be the dumbest person in the room when you go into those things, because you're like, oh man, everybody's like, yeah. And then let those other people be your friends. I've got friends of 30 years, and we don't talk business. They just know me like me. I'm my silly little self when I'm with them, and we laugh about stuff, and we're friends, but we don't do the business stuff. So it's separate, yeah. Because when you bring the business stuff up, there's like this competitive thing. It doesn't work. Just be friends. You got that corner, and you got your business friends.
Okay, and then also we say it here on the show quite a bit. Was like, what got you here is not going to get you there, right? So we say that here a lot. So what are the, maybe just real quick, somebody, if they're honest enough with themselves to have this type of introspection, where they could start seeing the signs like, hey, yeah, this is the peak time. This is when I got to start leveling out of this thing and start going on to something else. Like what do you think is like a couple of telltale signs that you can say, well, okay, that might open
It's
our eyes
easy.
a little bit?
I think it becomes easy. Success. Everybody wants to achieve success, but that's when it becomes easy. To me, it was like boring when I was at the peak of success, because it's like I'm not challenged anymore, right? So a true entrepreneur feels that. You got systems in place, clients are coming, you got a wait list. Like right now, it's easy for me, so I had to create something else, right? That's when hey, and it's easy to flow, because when the systems and the money's coming in, that's when somebody wants to buy. That's your peak buyer. And you just have to not get hung up on like, what am I going to do next or whatever. Take the money and run. It's a business. It's not your baby. And if they destroy it, which happens to every business, every one of my retail stores I sold, they destroyed it. And it's like, did things that changed everything. And it's like, does that upset you? No, it's not my baby. It's a business. I got my money out of it, and I did my thing. They chose to make bad decisions. And so everybody knows, like, again, I think it's really the success. Everybody wants to reach it because they're like, oh, I'll reach this place. I'm financially free. Systems are in place. I got great employees. Business is easy. And I wrote a book, Success is Easy. When it was easy for me, it was time for me to say, I need to reinvent. But otherwise, you've got a business owner who's stuck into being a business owner, and they aren't thinking like an entrepreneur. And that's why they keep it too long. And then they get burned out. And when they get burned out, the business starts going down. We see it.
Then it's too late to
right on the
sell.
wall.
Yeah, excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, great. I'm glad you asked those questions, Chris. They were great. Again, David, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. It was great having you on. Yep.
Thank you so much.